production, and we're experiencing those this morning as well. Luckily, I was able to pull most of the information from SharePoint and do some quick updates. So I have what we will need to cover in our training today. We will again, as Nikki said, post the information to SharePoint as well as the updated penalty checklist that we will go over. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, and we will begin with our actual training today. Nikki will be our moderator. We do have just 2 hours to cover here, so we're going to run through this without a break today. If, of course, if you need to step away, feel free to do so, but please just leave your microphones muted. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to talk about the penalty process for DSS. And the last time we presented this was probably in November of 2022. We get multiple requests for assistance and multiple requests for updated training or refresher training on this particular process. And I think the reason for that is because these penalties are not something that we do frequently on the DSS end. And so we may do one, we have an A violation or we have an unabated violation. We may have to complete a penalty packet, and then we don't do one for quite a while. And so it's not fresh in your mind. I'm going to show you today how you can actually go to SharePoint and pull up these resources and references if that were to occur. So it will be a step-to-step by step roadmap for you going further. All right, so first we're going to just talk about the regulatory authority. The references here are General Statute 131D-34, violations and penalties. That is the primary statute that we are looking at when we are imposing the penalties. Of course, we also have General Statute 131D-10, and that is related to the star rating. And we will talk about that briefly as well, but I went ahead and included that because it is a very important part of the process. Our regulatory references and processes that we use for our penalty process and procedures. Of course, number one is the regulatory authority, our ACLS standard operating procedures for the DSS county penalty process, our DSS CAR and penalty checklist, and of course, we also have SharePoint. See if it'll let me get to SharePoint there. I added that link this morning to see if we could get to that. So I wanted you all to kind of see that when you get to the SharePoint homepage, on the very top line here, we have kind of pinned the violations and penalty information to its own page. So if you will click on that, it will take you to its own page, and this little looks like a world to me, or I don't know what you would call it, just an asterisk. Click on that, and it's going to actually take you to a page with all of the information you are going to need to complete your penalty packet. And I wanted to make sure that you were able to see how to get to that on your own. So we will go back to our actual slides now. And again, you can pull up the regulatory authority in your rule book. You can pull it up from our website. The standard operating procedure is located on that tab I just showed you on the SharePoint, as well as the penalty checklist. All of the forms we're going to be covering, all the information that we discussed today will be on SharePoint. So let's talk just a little bit about when we will be recommending a penalty. Based on the law, that statute 131D-34, all A violations will have a penalty recommendation. Now, does that mean that the licensee will actually pay a penalty fine? Well, there's multiple factors included in that, including training that they are able to submit in lieu of some or all of the penalty amount. So sometimes, that penalty amount that is imposed is based on that training that they complete, if they complete it.
I don't know what one's not loud. That's weird.
Someone is not muted. If you could please mute, I would appreciate it. Thank you. We would also complete a penalty recommendation for all unabated violations. And based on the law, when there is an unabated violation, the licensee is fined every day, every calendar day for which they are out of compliance with the rule after the correction date. And then the third reason that we would have a penalty recommendation would be for A2 violations that meet specified criteria, which we will cover today. All right, I'm sure many of you have seen these penalty forms. I don't like them. I think they're troublesome, but it's the easiest way, trust me. We've had them on Word docs, we've had them different ways, and this is the actual easiest way for us to have these forms where we can gather all of the information necessary to calculate that penalty amount. So for A1 and A2 violations, we are using DHSR 4610. That form we will look at shortly in detail. That is an Excel document, and it will be completed and submitted to the Adult Care Licensure section in Excel format. For an A2 violation, there is an additional form that must be completed that has the criteria for A2 violations, and that is form 4660. It's also an ACLS form, and that form should be completed in Excel format as well, and it is completed at the time the CAR is written and submitted to the branch manager along with the penalty packet. In the past, the 4660 was a PDF and or Word doc that was updated to a Excel document several months ago. We will go over it. Unabated violations. If you have an unabated violation, you will use a different penalty Excel form, and that is 4610B. So just remember, if you are working on any type of unabated violation, you want to ensure you're pulling that 4610B versus the 4610. One more important part here is that when you are completing these penalty forms, at no point would you deliver or provide a copy of any of these penalty forms to the provider. These are internal documents. I will tell you that there are certain parts of these documents that are provided to the licensee by the Adult Care Licensure section. So if they are asking you for a copy of the form, you are welcome to let them know that, hey, when the Adult Care Licensure section sends out their penalty imposition decision, you will be provided with specified parts of the form. So key piece here, and we see this all the time, so we went ahead and made a slide. You want to make sure you're pulling that correct form from SharePoint. If you are saving a penalty form on your hard drive, on your desktop, if you're pulling a penalty form that you used in the past to look at, to go by, you know, that may not be the most up-to-date form. So anytime you have a penalty recommendation, you want to go straight to SharePoint, pull the actual document from SharePoint, complete it from the form from SharePoint. That will ensure that you always have the most up-to-date document. And I will tell you, if we don't have the most up-to-date form, it has to be sent back to you and you have to, you know, redo it. So we're trying to prevent extra work for you, make it a smooth process. So just kind of star somewhere that you want to go into the penalty section on our SharePoint and pull that form before you start completing it. Don't just pull one from your S drive or an old form that you have. All right, so now we're going to just talk about each of our major forms that we've kind of done an overview for. We're going to go pretty much line by line for these forms so we can kind of provide you with an easy way and the I guess a roadmap to what information needs to go on each line. And sometimes this is where we run into trouble. Sometimes folks are not sure what goes there. And so we're missing key parts of the information, and then it delays the penalty. And of course, it causes, I know you wear many hats, and it causes you have to go back and look at it again. So we're going to start here with 4610, which is used for all type A1 violations and all type A2 violations that meet criteria. It is an Excel document. If you will notice here at the top of the form, it says penalty number blank of blank. So what that means is if you have a car that has more than one A violation in it, you're going to have to fill out a penalty form for each of those violations. So if you have 2 penalties in one car, you would have penalty 1 of 2, penalty 2 of 2. So if you are riding a car and you have only one A1 violation in it, it would be penalty 1 of 1. You want to count all penalties with the same exit date, including unabated violations. So let's say you go back to a facility to complete a follow-up visit, and you determine that that rule is still out of compliance and the violation is now unabated. And while you're there, you get a complaint from a resident, you investigate it, and that results in an additional A violation. You would count the unabated violation as you would a normal violation. So it would be 2 if you're citing an unabated and a violation, any type of unabated violation, even if it were to be an unabated B, you're going to count those in your number of penalties. And again, if it has the same exit date, you want to count those together, and that would be how you would submit those. You would submit those at the same time. Penalty 1 of 2, penalty 2 of 2. Sometimes if you do have an unabated violation, it had the same exit date, but maybe you haven't got the follow-up correction date. So you may send it in later, but it's still going to be 1 of 2 with that exit date. The next line here is the facility name. It's pretty straightforward, but just want to remind you to please document that as it appears on the license. I know sometimes we'll have multiple homes. They'll have at Riverview, at River Knoll, at Riverside, family care home number 1, family care home number 2. So we want to make sure that we are actually documenting what is on that license. The license number as well, you're getting that from the license that is posted there in the facility. If you have any questions, you would also want to reach out to your regional ACLS team supervisor regarding that license number. We need to make sure that we have that license number accurate, as well as this FID number. We want to ensure that that information is accurate, because that is how it is tracked in our system for the licensee's payment. As we get, and this is the FID, and of course that is also on the current license. When we are looking at your SOD event number, of course, you are writing a car, so you would leave that section blank. It would not be applicable for a car. Census at the time of violation. You will determine the census while you are at the facility, either through your interviews, a census report, or some type of roster report, and that would be the number that you document here. The exit date. The exit date is also very important, and it's important because if you have to start calculating a unabated violation, you want to calculate it correctly, first of all. And second of all, when we are tracking and sending correspondence to these providers, we are documenting and using the exit date for that. So you would document the date that you physically completed the exit conference and delivered the car. So we're not talking about the last day you were on site completing your investigation. If you complete your investigation, you submit it to Quick, then you get the results back After you've made all the corrections, you will need to complete the exit conference and deliver it to the facility, and that would be the date that you would place in this box here. Your county name, of course, that's self-explanatory. Now we're going to move to the second section here, which is the penalty information section. And on the penalty form, this will be highlighted in this color so you can easily follow it. These other colors here, this blue and this green, these are here just to kind of draw your attention to the differences here. So on the proposal submitted by, you will always choose DSS here. For your violation, you're going to choose one or the other. If it's an A violation that has been through quick and it has stood as an A, you would choose A violation. If it is an A2 violation, it has went through quick, it has stood as an A2, and it meets the criteria of 4660, determining if a penalty recommendations should be submitted for an A2, then you would choose A2 here. So again, you're choosing one only. Regulatory statute. So this is a drop-down menu. I want to show you how we can drop down from this. So I'm on the actual penalty form now. And you come here to this box. You're going to see on your left side, you have the rule area statutory authority for F and G, which is for family and adult care homes. So you would need to choose the appropriate statute set of statutes here. If it's G, it's adult care, and if it's F, it's adult care, and if it's G, it's family care homes. And then you will come here and you will type in your rule number, and then just wanted to kind of show you where that drop down is. And then let's go back to our PowerPoint. So now we're back to our tag number for DSS. That will not be applicable. This is for tag numbers for statement of deficiencies only. So you would leave that line blank. Now we are moving on to the severity section of that 4610, which is the third section down here. If you are citing an A2 violation, you can see that this here is in blue, this is in blue. If it's an A2, you will always choose the top box, which is 5 points, always. And when you read the information here on this line, substantial risk that serious harm, abuse, neglect, or exploitation will occur, that is the actual definition in the statute 131D-34 for an A2 violation. So if you have an A2, you're always going to choose the top box. All right. If you have an A1, you are going to have to make a choice based on the information that you determined while you were conducting your investigation and or monitoring, and you would choose one of the 5 choices here based on what you found. Most of the time, and I don't want you to by any means think that you wouldn't choose something different, but most of the time, what we see is this 15. But there are, like I said, different circumstances for every single investigation and monitoring visit. So you would choose what is most appropriate for the outcome of your investigation and or monitoring. If you have questions, of course, you could discuss that with your supervisor and or the adult care licensure section regional team supervisor, and they will assist you with that. You want to choose one only. Now we are on the second page there of this 4610, and we are looking at the compliance status of the facility while you were there. And we want to make sure that we kind of point out here, if you are in a facility conducting monitoring and or a complaint investigation, and you believe you have an A2 violation, what that means is, in order to complete this compliance status section of this form, you are going to need to pull a sample of staff. If you don't pull the sample, you're not going to have the all of the information necessary for this section of the penalty form. And if the facility is not in compliance with these specific rule areas, then they will not have that counted against them in the point system. So we want to make sure we get that. And we'll go over it again shortly. But so basically, when you have these violations while on site that are A1s and A2s, you're going to need to go ahead and say, in your mind, kind of start and think, okay, I need to add this extra step here. I'm going to need to pull a staff sample. And of course, your staff sample is based on your census and whether you have a special care unit or not. And you're going to pull a sample to determine if the facility is in compliance with the healthcare personnel registry and the criminal background check for staff. So this top one here and this third one here, you must document yes or no for these particular questions. So these questions, if you note, there is only the option of yes or no on the form. There is not a non-applicable. So that means you have to check your staff sample while you are on site. So what you would do is you would pull your sample and you would review that and you would determine if the facility is in compliance with the staff qualification for determining whether or not the sampled staff were reviewed for a healthcare personnel registry check upon hire. If everyone that you check was in compliance and they met the requirement, then the answer would be yes, they were in compliance. And the date would be the date that you physically checked that staff sample and you determined that the facility was in compliance with the rule. If the answer is no, then we would expect to see a car, or we would expect to see included in the car with the violation a tag showing that the facility was not in compliance with said rule. So if you have one of three staff who did not have the healthcare personnel registry check upon hire, you would choose no here and you would cite it in your car. The same thing would apply for the criminal background screening. You would pull that same staff sample. And so when you're pulling your sample and you're looking at those records, you're looking at the healthcare personnel registry check and your criminal record check at the same time, and you're determining that compliance status. And that will be information that you will document on this form. If you look at the information here that is in green highlight, these questions can be answered yes, no, or not applicable. And so based on what you find or the details and evidence of your monitoring and or investigation, you would choose what is appropriate based on your specific outcome for your investigation or monitoring. So if there was an issue of if there was an instance or an issue in which healthcare personnel registry should have been reported with a 24 and a 5-day, if that was applicable, you would determine if they were in compliance with it. If they were, you would choose yes. You would put the date that you checked it. If they were not in compliance, but they should have actually reported it, then of course you would choose no. You would document the date that you checked it. And if there was no reason that healthcare personnel registry should have received a report, then you would choose not applicable. The same thing pertains here when you're looking at your death reports. If that rule applied, you would choose yes, no, or not applicable. And then here, when you are actually reporting that death, when there is a physical restraint. So you want to make sure that if you have any type of death or serious physical harm that is the result of violence, an accident, suicide, homicide, or physical restraint, then you would want to have a flag in your mind. Hey, I need to document this on the penalty form. And most of the time, and I can't think of a time when you wouldn't, but if you have a death that is related to any of these reasons, you're going to be gathering that information as you complete your investigation anyway. So just make sure that, you have the date and that you are choosing the appropriate answer here on your compliance section of your 4610. All right. We're going to move on to the next section of the penalty form, which is the facility's effort to correct the noncompliance. You will choose one answer only here. Most of the time, the answer is 4, but that does not mean yours will be different. You will choose the answer that is most applicable to your evidence and your findings, the outcome of your specific investigation and or monitoring. If you have questions, of course, you would reach out to your supervisor, discuss it. If you continue to have questions or we're not sure, then reach out to the Regional Adult Care Licensure Section supervisor. Again, you're choosing one based on the findings. The final section here, as far as your choices, is going to be the number of residents put at risk. You're going to choose one here only. It's based on the number of residents that are actually cited in your car. So if you have a sample of 3 residents and you cite 2 of 3 in your car and it's an A1 violation, then you would choose the second box here because you have more than 1 resident cited in the car. When you get to the all section, and you're choosing this 5 points in all, this is for some of the rules where maybe you're citing a food supply, maybe you're citing the physical plant in which the outcome was to all residents. Again, if you have questions, you would reach out to your supervisor and the regional supervisor for that. So if you're only citing 1 person in your car, you're going to choose the 1. If more than 1, it's going to be 3. And that's per tag. So let's say you have a car and it has 1004A cited at an A1 violation, and you cite 1 resident in that tag at 1004A. And in that same car, you have another A1 violation at 902B, and you cite 2 residents at 902B. For the penalty form for 1004A, you're going to choose 1 because only 1 resident was cited at 1004A. For 902B, you had 2 residents cited in your car, so you're going to choose the middle box, which is more than 1. And again, you will be completing a penalty form for each and every rule that is cited at violation level A1 and A2 that meets violation criteria. Okay, so what happens here in this green section is everything that we just went over where we are choosing an answer based on the outcome of our investigation or monitoring. It will automatically populate into this section here, and you will see a grand total point value. Please do not alter that section. That is the section that is used by our team when calculating the penalty amount. And we look at the criteria in the statute as well as the information that was documented on the form, and that is has to be accurate and it cannot be altered here, because if so, then there may be, an inconsistency in that amount. So just know that this section, you will not need to, you can just pretty much skip it. You don't even have to touch it. The intervention timeline, this is on the last page. And this is where you're just entering in actual dates of your monitoring and or investigation. So it says dates of survey dash investigation. You want to enter every single date that you were there conducting that monitoring and or investigation. If you get it done in 2 days, you got 2 dates. If you have to go back 6, 7 times, you need to put every date there, including the exit date. The date the SOD was mailed or car was mailed. So this is the date that you are going to deliver the car. It is the date of the exit with the facility, and this date should match the DSS, IDR, and penalty recommendation letter. And we will go over that shortly, but you want to make sure that those match. And the reason is because based on the law, when we are recommending a penalty, we are to notify that licensee of that penalty recommendation. And we also allow them the opportunity to submit staff training that was completed after the violation was identified. And that training is actually considered for some or all of the penalty fine if it meets the specific criteria defined in the statute. So when we are delivering the car, the adult care licensure sections process is if there is a penalty, that we also notify them of the penalty at the time we deliver the car. Hence the DSS IDR penalty recommendation to licensee letter. We will look at that form letter. Date of receipt of additional information. This is not the date of the plan of correction. I have seen this used, I think, once. So most of the time it's going to be NA or not applicable, leave it blank. It's very, very rarely used. Just know it is not the plan of correction, and that is typically what we see entered there. We will see folks will put the plan of correction date there. That is not what we are looking for there. We are looking for anything that would correct that violation. Maybe there was an error, maybe the information that was previously submitted was submitted in error. They had subsequent information that proved the violation didn't occur, those type things, or so it's very rarely used. The final block here is the date that IDR is held or scheduled, and this is only if it's applicable. And I will tell you that based on the timeline of our penalty packet recommendations to our branch managers, most of the time you are not going to have the information related to when that IDR is scheduled, or even if it's scheduled, because we are submitting the penalty packet to the branch manager within 5 business days of delivery of the car. And the licensee actually has 15 business days to request the IDR. So you're most of the time are not going to know that. But if you do, you would just write what you know in here. The IDR was held on this date, or the IDR was scheduled on this date. If you don't know, you can document NA, which will most of the time be the information that you're documenting. So don't be worried about it when you get to some of these dates. They can get tricky and you think, golly, I'm not sure. I've got to get that. Just know that that does not have to be filled in if you don't have it. All right. When you get to the attachment section here, just want to draw your attention here where the green arrow is. If you are in need of a reminder of the attachments that you will need to submit with the 4610 Excel form, these are the attachments required. It is a copy of the corrective action report, a copy of the notification to the licensee, and a copy of the licensee's receipt of the notification. So those are attachments A, B, and C. We will go over those. The submitted here, this is where you are signing and dating your name and the date that you submit it to the branch manager. Now, when you look at 4160, let me go here to show you. You will note that this particular form, 4610, it actually has multiple tabs here at the bottom. So this is the secondary tab for which you will document the compliance history of the facility. So when you look at the first section of the penalty form that we've been reviewing, you just can scroll down here. But you do need to take note that if you are using 4610, you must complete the compliance history tab. So there it is. This is kind of an enlarged version of it. So what you will complete on this tab is a 36-month compliance history of that facility. And what that means is you will document on this tab all type B violations, type A violations, and unabated violations that were cited at that facility in each rule area within the last 36 months. And this includes violations cited in CARs and SODs. So where are you going to get that information? You're going to get it from your CARs, and you're going to get it from the supervisor who is actually copied on each and every SODL that goes out to any licensee by the Adult Care Licensure section. So you do have that information available to you, and you will need to compile it. What you do not include is the violation for which the form you're completing now. So if I have exited on March 1st, 2023, that does not go on this compliance history. You're counting back 36 months from March 1st, and you're starting with the most recent non-compliance on the top, and you're going back to the oldest non-compliance on the bottom. So when I was a surveyor, I kind of did it this way. So I can get my exit. It's not want to. Okay, perfect. So the way that I did it when I was a surveyor, and I would count it, and of course, I would document it on a hard copy, but I would go in and I would pick my exit date. I would subtract 36 months. This is my date, March 1, 2020. So I'm going to go and I'm going to have that target date of March 1, 2020. And when I work on my compliance history tab, I'm going to document any type B, type A, and unabated violations cited from March 1, 2020 to current. So that's what I would document on this log. So anything cited in 2020 would be here, 2021 up to 2023. Please note that when you are documenting information on this tab here, the date column is the date of exit. So if you have an SOD that you're citing, you're not citing the date of the SODL, you're citing the date of the SOD. So when you see the non-compliance come through from the Adult Care Licensure section, there will be two attachments on the email. The first one will be a statement of deficiencies letter, which will include the penalty notice. It will have a date at the top, and you will see the statement of deficiencies document, and it will have the date as well, but it is the date of the exit, not the date of the letter. So you will use the date of exit in this column. As far as the rule number goes, all we need there is the actual number. You've already told us on the first page that this facility isn't an adult or family care home. So when we look at this compliance history, we know that it had to be cited at the F or G based on whether it's an adult or family care home. So you don't need to indicate that here. When you are typing in your compliance history here, you have to physically type in these numbers. So let's say today is 3/01/2022. My rule number 0902B. And it was cited as a B. I have to physically key in 0.5. And what you will see is when I key it in here, it's going to automatically calculate here. Then it will show here at the bottom, and it will also show in my section where I have done my point values. That will automatically calculate. It's right here, so that's automatically calculating. This is that automatic calculation section. If you were to fill in every single line here on this non-compliance history page for 36 months, you have a second page here for which you can do this. And I think I have had to do that maybe once or twice, and that was when I was a surveyor. So we hope we don't see one with that large of a compliance issue, but if that is necessary, you do have that extra tab there for documenting that compliance history. All right, so we just have a quick reminder here, and this is what we've already discussed, but we just want to remind you all that when you are citing an A violation, if it's being recommended, if you are exiting with that facility and you are recommending an A violation and an A2 violation, A1 violation and an A2 violation that meets criteria, then you are going to go ahead and pull that staff sample selection for review to determine compliance with healthcare personnel registry rule and criminal background check rule. And those are the two rules that we went over earlier. And just wanted to have a separate slide here to kind of show those to you to make sure that we are checking those when we are out in the field. What we see many times is we have completed our survey, our monitoring, our complaint investigation, and we failed to check this information. Many times if the, you may be directed to go back and pull that sample selection by the branch manager. It depends on whether, the dates of the investigation, if it's within that time frame, and if you are resubmitting the CAR, if you need additional information to support it. But just remember, best case scenario is if you're saying, hey, I think I'm at an A level here and I'm going to recommend an A, I'm just going to go ahead and pull my staff sample while I'm here. All right, now we're going to move on to Form 4660. This is the form that is used for type A2 violations only. So if you have an A1 violation, you won't even use this form. If you have an A2 violation, you must complete this form because this is how we determine if the criteria is met for a penalty for A2 violations. This is what the form looks like. We're going to go over it here like we did the other one, but I want to point out that it's just a one-page form. If you look here on this middle section where we have this arrow here, you will see that it is actually asking you if there are any standard deficiencies cited in the same rule area in the past 36 months. So whereas we are not including standard deficiencies on our 4610 compliance history tab, we are including standard deficiencies in the same rule area for A2 violations on 4660. All right, so I'm going to show you an easy way to kind of fill out this form. And most of the time, it's going to be pretty straight cut. At the very top of the form, of course, we have our facility information section. This is where we will complete the same information that we have completed. We went over earlier for 4610, the facility name as it appears on the license, the license number as it appears on the license, the date of violation, which is the exit date with the facility, your rule area, the completed by means the adult home specialist name and or supervisor, whoever's completing that, and the date that you have completed this form. So the date of the violation and the date that you complete the form could be the same or it could be different. So if you will note here, when you start out on this form, back one, we have a preventative measures section, and then we have a compliance history section, and then we have the response to previous violation section. So I want to take note here of this preventative measures section first. And I want you to pull up this form. I want you to see how we use the drop-down menu here. So here is our 4660. And in this top section, you have a drop-down section, and basically you're going to answer yes or no to the top 3 questions. If you choose no to any of these questions, 1, 2, or 3 of these questions in this preventative section, you don't need to fill out the compliance history section, because that, if you choose no up here, there's an automatic penalty recommendation. So you don't have to complete the compliance history section if you have a no answer here in the preventative measures section. We see many times that the adult home specialist will take the time to fill out the complete form when it is not necessary. It's not going to be wrong if you fill it out, but you are taking time to go back and physically look at standard deficiencies, and you're documenting the information here in the compliance history that is not needed. And that, of course, that takes extra time for you. So we just want you to understand that if you choose no on any question in the preventative measures section, that is kind of where you stop. You do not have to complete the information below that section. However, if all answers here are yes, then you are going to need to come down to the compliance history section and document that 36-month history. And you're basically using the same process that you use on the compliance history tab. And what you will do is you will total up the number of points in this section. You will also need to come down and document the response to previous violations, and this is specifically a section for unabated violations only. So if you're using 4660, you have to separate out standard deficiencies, violations, and unabated violations. And then you will calculate your total number of points. If the total number of points in the compliance history and response to previous violation section equals 3, then a penalty proposal will be completed. At the bottom of the form here, you see the point values for each of the type of violations and or citations cited, and that is where you get your points. So if you are citing a standard deficiency, you would 0.25. Again, you have to enter these in, and it calculates for you to get your grand total. I will tell you, when I was a surveyor, when I was a supervisor, there were maybe, as a surveyor, I don't think there was ever a time when I had to complete this compliance history section. As a supervisor, there were times I did see that this section needed to be completed, but most of the time, if you have an A2 violation, you will have an issue with one of these preventative measures. Now, that doesn't mean that's all the time. So, don't take that as, I hear one or the other. Just, again, you're choosing the yes or no based on the outcome of your investigation and or monitoring. So that's where you're using your drop downs. And again, we want to ensure that we are completing 4660 at the time that you write the CAR and you are submitting this form for the branch manager to review at the time you are submitting the 4660 penalty form, because it shows that you physically and went through here and you completed the information necessary to determine if that A2 criteria was met. This is just a close-up of the compliance history section. Again, if the total points equals 3 or more, you are looking at a penalty recommendation. So that is the 4660. Right. Now we are going to move from violations that were initially cited to unabated violations. So that means that you had a violation cited previously. You went back to the facility to conduct a follow-up to determine if the facility was back in compliance with the rule, and you determined that they were not. And so you have an unabated violation. So we will go over this form as well. This is 4610B. This is for unabated B violations, unabated A1 violations, unabated A2 violations. Right. So when we look at the top of the form, the first thing you see is the number, penalty number of blank of blank. Again, we are counting all violations with the same exit date when we are documenting the information here. We've already kind of went over how to count that. If you have questions, discuss it with your supervisor or the ACLS regional supervisor. In the facility information section, this is basically the same as the previous form we discussed. The name will be the facility name as it is appearing on that current facility license. The license number and the FID will be documented as they appear on the facility license. The tag number, the survey ID number, excuse me, will be not applicable for DSS because, of course, this is a car. The date is going to be the date that you exit and deliver that car. The county is your county name, and the census is the time that the census at the time the unabated violation was identified, which again will be determined from your interviews, roster, census report, whatever record review that you have, but you will just enter the facility census. We're moving to the penalty information section now. Submitted, you're going to always choose DSS. Violation. Here we have 3 choices versus 2 on the previous form. So if you have an unabated A1, you choose this box. Unabated A2, you choose this box. Unabated B, you choose this box. Here is our rule number. Pull up this form so I can show you the drop downs. Delay here. Okay, so first thing you'll see when you open up the 4610B is there's only one tab. And we are on that tab and we are at the rural area. Here again, we have the drop down where you are choosing if this is a HA or a family care. And then here we have the section where you will type the rule or statute number. When you move to the tag number, that is not applicable for DSS. You will leave that blank. And then you move along the one-page section of the form. Go back to the PowerPoint now. I just wanted to show you that each section of the form, and it is highlighted. Okay, when you get down here to your correction dates, this is very, very important because, as we mentioned earlier, the fine is calculated from the original correction date. And so when we are counting how much the fine is, we count every calendar day. So we have to have the information documented on here accurately in order to ensure that that number is calculated correctly. So when you look at your correction date, you are going to document here on the correction date line the original violation correction date, which is the time that you first cited it in your first car, the correction date from the first car when you first identified that violation. That is what goes on that line. The date that the violation is corrected, that is going to be the date that the facility provided to you that they would have the rule back in compliance. They're either going to be documenting that on their plan of correction and or their plan of protection. Now, we know that on our plan of protection form, if you are requesting a plan of protection for an unabated violation, there is a line on the form for unabated violations only, and it asks the provider to provide a correction date. So you would use that correction date on the plan of protection that was documented by the provider at the time you obtained the plan of protection, or you would document the date on the plan of plan of correction, which one was sooner. Okay, if you have questions, you want to talk that out with your supervisor and your regional ACLS supervisor. These dates can get tricky. That's why we tried to make sure we had very specific information on here. So when you reference these documents, you were able to understand and, refer to these documents. And I know when I was a surveyor, I had myself a little cheat sheet when I was reviewing penalty packets for my team members. When I was a supervisor of surveyors, I would always look and pull out my cheat sheet because I would never trust myself to remember what the dates were. I would say, I think that's right. Even if I was looking at 3 or 4 unabated penalties at one time, I may skip over it and I'll say that looks good. And then I would say, let me just pull that, because I did not trust myself. They get so tricky. So just, pull this document out or take your own notes, but make sure that you are getting the accurate information in there. So when we get to the intervention timeline, we are looking at survey investigation dates. Again, we want to enter every date that we were in that building, including the exit date. Original citation, that is the original car exit date at the time the violation was first cited. So you're putting here the exit date of your first car, follow up / revisit. That is, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a line, excuse me. After we do the original citation, we want the correction date. Again, that is your original correction date as cited in the first car. So in the very first car, when you cited it and it was not unabated, where you put correction date for the A1 violation shall not exceed, That's the date you're documenting on this line. And then the follow-up/revisit, this is the exit date for the follow-up when the violation was identified the second time. Okay, so this is when you're documenting the exit date for your follow-up visit when you found the unabated. And then violation abated. This is the date when you exited or you determined that facility was actually in compliance with this rule. And we're going to, the branch manager will count the number of dates from the original correction date until the date that it was abated, and that is how the fine is calculated. So use this as your guideline. Reach out to your supervisor, your regional ACLS supervisor if needed. But this is, again, it can get tricky for your dates on these unabateds. I do want to point out that if you have an unabated violation, you don't have to do the compliance history. So you just have the one form there that you're completing. When we move on to the attachments section, the attachments are the same as they are for your A's. And for 4610, you're just including attachment A, B, and C, which is a copy of the corrective action report, a copy of the notice to the licensee, and a copy of the licensee's receipt of that notification. Of course, you are signing it and dating it with the date that you are submitting that to the branch manager. And then below this line here, you would not need to document anything that is for ACLS use. All right, now that we've went over our forms, let's talk specifically about our supporting attachments, which are required for each and every penalty recommendation that we submit. When we talk about attachment A, that is going to be a clean copy of the car. So a lot of people ask, why does that say clean copy of the car? We used to put the POC on there. You are correct. However, based on the timeline in which this penalty recommendation must be submitted to the branch manager, you will not have the facility's plan of correction back yet. So you will supply in the attachment A clean copy of the car. That way there are no delays. Attachment B, that is a copy of the notification to the licensee of that penalty recommendation. So essentially what we mean here is it's the letter that we've been discussing that has the notice of that penalty recommendation in it. We're going to pull that up now. So many of you have seen the various form letters that are used, and many of you have actually completed these form letters. So these form letters are located on SharePoint. This form letter here, it includes information regarding informal dispute resolution and penalty notification. So if you are delivering a car that contains an A violation or an unabated violation to any licensee, you will complete and deliver this letter on your agency letterhead at the time you deliver the car. You will go in to the, typically I will tell you the easiest way to do this is you want to go into SharePoint, and to ensure you have the most up-to-date letter, we want to go directly to SharePoint to pull this letter. So let's do that. We want to go to SharePoint and we want to pull the letter from SharePoint. We're not pulling it from our S drive. We're not pulling it from a previous letter. We're going to pull it from SharePoint. And we want to pull it at the time we are delivering that car, when we're preparing to deliver that car. So here is the letter. You want to go in here and you want to download a copy of it to your desktop or whatever folder that you work from. And you want to, like I said, pull it from SharePoint on that day. It kind of tells you how to do it. You're going to download a copy of it. You can open it and then ask you to enable editing. You will hit File, Save As. You can save it in whatever folder you want. In this instance, I'm going to save it to my desktop. And I'm going to, since I'm saving it to my desktop, I could go ahead and put the facility's name on here if I want to. So I'm making this for Nikki's Family Care Home. And I'll take this off. And I'm not going to leave it named as the template. I'm going to follow the acronym list, but I'm going to put the date of the letter on here. What's today's date? 08-11. All right, so now I've got my letter and I'm going to delete and or remove any language that is not applicable from this letter. So I know at the top, I don't need all this. I'm going to delete that out, get a certified mail number if I have that, or if I'm going to hand deliver it. I'm going to key in this information here to the licensee. Now, where are you going to get that information? The contact information, the executive officer, the licensee. You're going to obtain that information from your regional adult care licensure section supervisor. So you need to send an email to them, and in the subject line, you need to say contact information for penalty proposal. You can come in here and you can copy and paste this. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come right over here. I'm going to open up my email. I'm hoping it's going to open. I'm going to get me a new email. And I'm going to hit paste. And I'm sending this to, I'm going to send this to Nikki as a test because this is how we do it. But you would send it to your regional team supervisor. You can send it to that email group. And or if your facility adult care licensure section supervisor tells you to send it directly to them, you can do it that way. And I'm using a different keyboard, so I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Amherst Family Care Home, #1. Thanks. Then I'm going to send it, and they will respond to you with the information, and you will plug it and chug it into here. The email address, you can also get that from the regional ACL supervisor if you wish, or you can verify it with the facility. I would probably, if I were you, I think I would probably ask for that email address also from the adult care licensure section team supervisor, because they're going to have the most up-to-date information. And then you're just going to go down here and you are going to complete this information as a form letter. Anything that is not applicable, you will delete. So if you don't have an A violation, then you're going to delete this whole section because you don't have an A. You're citing an A2. So you'll delete it. So anything that does not be anything that is not applicable or should not be included, you will delete. So if you have a continuing unabated, so you just go in and you delete that's what's not applicable. You will note that there are certain sections that say include in all letters. So where this says include in all letters, you're going to delete this red line because this is just your guide. You don't want this provider to see that, but you'll delete it, but you'll leave this entire section in the letter. You will note that it tells the provider specifically the criteria that is needed for training to be considered. It also provides them with specific instructions for submitting training to the adult care licensure section, including the email address that they are supposed to submit the training to. It also includes the specific information related to IDR, and you will have to calculate your IDR date here based on your exit date or the date of this letter. Of course, you will put your information here and you will place it on your local agency letterhead. You will save it and it will be delivered to the facility in PDF format at the time you deliver the car. If at the time you deliver the car and this letter, or even after this letter is received, you get information or inquiries from the facility regarding training. Let's say they submit the training to you, or they say, hey, I'm not understanding this training. You need to let them know. They need to follow the directions in the letter. And if they have any questions regarding the training, they need to reach out to the adult care licensure section specifically. And there are email information for the adult care licensure section, as well as instructions to our website for additional information. Just know that you are not responsible for answering those questions or reviewing any of that training. So if you were to get it, just reach out to the provider and let them know that that is not your function or your role, that has to be handled by the adult care licensure section, and refer them to the adult care licensure section. If you are running into issues with specific providers, and or you feel the need to notify us of any type of issues that you have seen with a provider, or any inquiries with training, you are also welcome to email the adult care licensure section, QI team, or this penalty submission email group, and just advise kind of what's going on. But again, this would be a function of the adult care licensure section to advise and or assist any provider with questions regarding training submission. If they have any questions or concerns regarding IDR, of course, they would contact the adult care licensure section as noted in the IDR section. Again, you can refer them to our agency website regarding IDR. And then, of course, if they have additional questions, you can get with the IDR coordinators, which would be Veronica, Nikki Lee, and Pam Burns for the West for IDR. And of course, we have our training email groups. If you're running into questions, if you have specific questions, you are certainly welcome to submit those to the training email group, and we will address those. So now we are back to our attachments. We just went over attachment B, which is a copy of the notification to the licensee. And what that means is the actual copy of that letter. And if the branch manager gets that penalty packet without a copy of that letter, they're going to ask you where that letter is. And if you did not complete that and send it or provide it to the licensee, then they're going to let you know that you are going to need to go ahead and do that, because based on the law and the current system that we utilize for notification of penalty recommendations, that provider is to be notified when the car is delivered. So that would be your responsibility to notify them of that penalty recommendation. Attachment C is a copy of the notifications receipt of that letter. It's going to be the receipt of this penalty recommendation IDR letter. And so if you use a USPS confirmed delivery, of course, you can have your green card, a copy of that green card where they signed for it, attached, or you may go online, search that tracking information and attach that. If you have delivered it via email and they have confirmed it via an email delivery, you can print off the email and attach the email. And then if you delivered it at the time of on an on-site visit, let's say you physically go on site to deliver it and you're hand delivering it, then you can ask them to sign a monitoring report. Of course, you would want to write that you're delivering the car and the IDR penalty notice. And then they would sign it and it shows that they got it, and you would include that as your attachment C. All right, let's talk about some key reminders for all penalties. So when we have a penalty recommended, we have to complete a penalty form for each violation. So again, you're choosing the correct penalty form based on whether it is an A violation or an unabated violation. The forms are Excel documents, and they should be completed in Excel format. And when they are submitted, they need to be submitted to ACLS in Excel form. So if you are submitting a car and you are submitting your penalty form with the car, you can just print it off and fax it in. So we know that that's not going to be an Excel document, but we're just getting a copy of the Excel document. But when you get it back and you are correcting that form, that penalty form, you're saving it as an Excel document. And when you attach and send it to the branch manager, it is in an Excel document for the final penalty packet. Okay. We want to ensure too that the supervisors for the counties are actually reviewing these cars and also your penalty forms prior to those being submitted to ACLS for quick review. That's a very important step. Ensure that your car and penalty corrections are completed based on the quick review by the adult care licensure section. Many times you will, well, I don't want to say many, but there will be times you will need to resubmit a car, but you may not need to resubmit the penalty forms. If there is a resubmission of the penalty form required, it will be noted on the quick review results. So just note, if you have to resubmit the car, if it does not ask you to resubmit the penalty forms, that is not a step that you need to take time to do at the time of resubmission of the car. Just correct the penalty forms and save them until you get, your final results from quick on the car. Then you would correct your car and proceed from there. All penalty forms are submitted in Excel format. And then the final bullet here is very important. We need to ensure that we are submitting these penalty recommendations. We have to ensure that we are including the documentation of the clean copy of the car, the copy of the licensee's notification of that penalty and IDR, and then the actual confirmation of the licensee's receipt. And those are the attachments we discussed, A, B, and C. Penalty recommendation due dates. Penalty recommendations are going to be due. They've been due to the branch manager. I think it's since around December of 2022. The timeline changed. Penalty recommendations are due to the branch manager within 5 business days of the car exit date. So within 5 business days, you should have all of the ABC attachments, because you're getting the clean copy of the car the day you deliver it. You have the IDR/penalty recommendation notification letter at the time you deliver the car. And then within 5 business days of that exit date, you should be able to track the delivery by mail. You should be able to pull it up via your email that they received it, and or pull your monitoring report. We do send out courtesy emails when there are penalty recommendations. We do that as a courtesy to assist you. We try to do that within 2 business days of the final quick results. Sometimes that is delayed based on folks who are out of the office, or other obligations that they're working on. But just know that you do not necessarily have to wait until you get that reminder to submit that penalty packet to the branch manager. Here is a copy of the fax cover sheet. I'm sure most of you have seen this document. This is the standard document that you would use to submit a car with a penalty recommendation to our section. Of course, there are multiple sections on the form. The top section is just contact information. The second section is the section that you complete as the adult home specialist and or supervisor at the time that you submit the car and penalty forms. Below this line here where it says quick team recommendation, this is where you will see the documentation of the quick review results, and it will tell you if the car needs to be resubmitted and or the penalty forms need to be resubmitted. I want to call your attention to the bottom section here, which is the due dates of the exit date of the car and the penalty proposal to the branch manager. At the time of the final quick results, the quick reviewers will document the expected exit date with the facility, and that is within 10 business days of the final quick results. So that will be documented here. And then they will also document the date that the penalty recommendation is due to the branch manager via Zix mail. And essentially what they do, they've already counted your 10 business days on this line. They add 5 more business days to that date, and that's where they're getting your penalty proposal due date. Here are some other additional information. You want to make sure that you're sending in your penalty recommendations to quick at the time that you're submitting the car for review, because we want to make sure that we're looking at the information on the front end to make sure those penalty forms are accurate. After it has all been reviewed, the car's been delivered, and it is time to submit the penalty packet, please ensure that you're submitting the forms. That's the penalty spreadsheet form. If it's an A2, you have to submit 4660, determining if a penalty is to be recommended, as well as your attachments ABC to the branch manager. Please submit these all at one time. They don't have to be scanned in all together. They can be multiple attachments to that email, but they do need each and every one of those documents in order to process that penalty packet based on the law and the processes. We don't want to send any penalty documentation via regular email. And of course, we would not send that by snail mail anymore. We use a secure email system called Zix, and that is how we correspond between our DSS partners and our adult care licensure section branch managers for all penalty submissions. When we send out our penalty reminder emails, we send them out using that Zix email program, so you are able to easily reply all to the reminder email and attach your documents to the Zix email and submit them easily to the branch manager. And then I added this link here. I just want you to know, this is a key piece. It takes you straight to our website. Again, if you go to this top header line here, we have a special page for penalties. If you will go in here to this page, you are going to have kind of a one-stop shop for everything you're going to need to complete your penalty. Okay. including submitting your penalty to the adult care licensure section via Zixmail. We will go over that next. Going to pull up our PowerPoint for our secure email. So now that we know how to complete the forms, the specific information that goes on the forms and our timelines, and the attachments and supporting documentation required for penalty recommendations, we will go over the process for submission of a penalty recommendation / proposal to the adult care licensure section using our secure email program. So the reason that we implemented the secure email program, first of all, is we wanted to ensure that we were able to get those penalty proposals received timely and accurately, and we are able to track those in accordance with the law and the adult care licensure section policies. Of course, it's much more convenient and more efficient and effective to use an email program versus having to print all this out, go to the mail, physically mail this, and then we're having to track it, look for it, scan it in, and then we can use these email reminders and the submissions to show, hey, we did submit this. And there have been times, I know there was one recently where I was tracking it, and I'm reaching out to Wake County, I believe it was Vaughn, and I'm saying, hey, Vaughn, we don't have this. And she says, snapshot, screenshot, here it is. And I was like, oh yeah, well, thank you. I got it. Thanks. So that's some of the key goals that we kind of thought would be helpful in using this Zixmail, which is kind of why we moved to that. So how do we actually use this Zixmail? Well, we use it. It's a standard program that we used throughout the adult care licensure section. It does require an email invite. And so what happens is you will receive an invite from the adult care licensure section to use the Zixmail program. And once you receive the email and you set up your account, you will not have to be invited afterwards. But that initial setup of the account will require you to establish an account. And once you have that account established, you will be able to use that program without an invitation going forward. One caveat here is the adult care licensure section cannot reset any passwords. We do not have access to any of those passwords that you may enter. So please ensure that you are documenting your email that you used for the creation of your account and your password available and retrievable for your future use. So now let's talk about how we're going to set up the initial account. What's going to happen is you're going to get an email and it's going to kind of look like this. It's most likely going to be from me or Katura Hawkins, who is the new quality and compliance specialist. You're going to see an email that says, hey, you've received a secure message. To view it, do this. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit this little green box that says register my account. It will take you to a secure portal, and it will ask you to create an account. You want to choose register with an email address. Once you do that, it will take you to a credential page. It will ask you for your email address, your name, and it will ask you to come up with a password and confirm that password. Once you've entered all of that information, you hit the register line here, and it will prompt you that you are successfully registered to use this program. Once you have successfully registered to use the program, you can respond to emails to submit the proposal, or you can go in and create an email and submit the proposal without the reminder. We're going to go over that. You will receive a courtesy email from the adult care licensure section within around 2 business days of the final quick results. And it will come in through Zix Mail, and it will tell you when the penalty recommendation is due. It will tell you the name of the facility, the level of noncompliance that was cited in the car, as well as the rule number. So let me pull up one. You'll get the email, and once you've registered your account, you'll get an email to your regular email account, and it'll say you've got a secure email message. So you hit green button here, go to my messages. It's going to take you inside the secure portal. I will tell you, if you have not used the secure portal in a number of weeks, and I don't know what that time frame is, it will sign you out. So instead of taking directly to this secure portal where your messages will load, it will take you to that sign-in page. And once you key in your email and your password, it will take you to this same page as well. This is a typical email program. You can set it up the way that you want, but when you first come into it, you will have your messages on the left side here. Your new messages will kind of show here. The reading pane is going to be here in the middle. This right side shows you the status. I don't use this side, but you may find it helpful. So you would see the message here from the person from the adult care licensure section. It would most likely, again, be myself or Katura Hawkins. Many times you may see an email response from the regional branch manager saying, hey, I need this, or hey. So, you're looking for these new messages, and they will say, what it is. You will click on it, and as you click on it, it is going to actually bring you so if I click on this top line, it will show that message in this pane. If I click on this third one, it will show that message in this pane. So let me try to pull up one so we can get, so I can kind of show you in real time. So I'm going to pull up my email and try to find one. And I probably have 5,000 emails. All right, so here's one that I got in the other day, and it's from a Soslin, and she was actually submitting a penalty. But if you get an email from me, it's going to look like this as well. You're going to hit view message, and it's asking me to sign in. So I will do that. Let's see. I hope this is my password, and it is. So here's my new messages. There they are. And so when you are submitting your documents to the adult care licensure section, when you reply, we get the email, and then we download the information all as one document. So again, if you don't want to scan everything in together, you're going to need to, you go to your computer and you would attach those. So let me see if I can show you one that I sent. Yeah, here we go. So when you get the email from me, let's see if I can make my screen larger. No, that didn't do it. Yeah, I don't know if I can make my screen larger, but if you look here, you will see that the email came from the adult care licensure section. The subject line was penalty recommendation. It had the name of the facility, and it had the level of violation. It said, based on the quick results dated this date, the car for the above facility rule area 305H4 or whatever rule area it was, it states that the penalty recommendation is due to the regional branch manager on or before, and it will provide you with a date. There will be a copy of the penalty car and penalty checklist attached to the actual email that you receive. And then if and or when you receive it and you're ready to respond, you would hit reply all, and it tells you to hit reply all to submit. And if you hit reply all, this is what happens. It takes you to a email and it allows you to come up and choose what you are going to actually do. You're going to send a secure file. So there it is. When you hit secure file, it will ask you what items you want to attach. You would find those documents from your desktop, from your folder. You would attach those. You would open those. And as you attach those, you will see them show down here in your attachments. So if you attach 4 items, you'll have 4 items attached here. Once you get everything attached, you hit send secure and the information will voila be sent to the branch manager, and the quality and compliance specialist will be copied on the email, and they can track receipt of that penalty. So we kind of just went over that in real time. This is your messages on the left. The full content is on the right. Here are the steps. Choose one. You're going to choose reply all. Going to choose secure files. That allows the program to pull files from your computer and or folder to attach to the email program. You choose the files that you want to attach. Once you've chosen those, you will hit open. Those attachments will show as we just discussed. After everything has been attached, of course, you can attach 1 file at a time. You can attach 3 or 4 files at a time. Once you have attached everything that is required, which be your penalty forms and your supporting attachments, you would hit send secure. And that means that the email has been sent to the branch manager. All right, I want to take just a quick moment to go over the DSS CAR and penalty checklist. We're going to go over the highlights here because it does have a lot of information related to your penalty, your CAR, writing your CAR quick submission. And we'll go over the highlights here, but I want you to note that we do have a more updated version of this checklist, and it is dated 8/1/2023. It's not been posted to SharePoint because we were waiting until this training. At this time, we cannot access that document. We are not able to get into our shared drive due to technical difficulties. Really, the only thing that changed on here is we used to have a form 4660 used to be a PDF form. We have now documented on this form that it is an Excel document, and there may be 1 or 2 other word changes, but just note that when you are working on a CAR, go ahead and pull the most recent checklist from SharePoint. That way you will have, this to copy and use as your roadmap. So if you're writing a CAR, I would suggest that in order to meet all of the steps for that non-compliance, that you print and utilize this DSS CAR and penalty checklist for each and every CAR that you write, regardless of if there is a penalty required or if there is a violation. Because if you will use this document, it will tell you what you need to do all the way up from your initial writing, whether it needs to be submitted to Quick, what documents you need to submit to Adult Care Licensure section, and when those are to be submitted. It includes information on naming formats, email addresses, timeframes. It talks about processing the plan of correction. It talks about completing your follow-up. So if you will utilize this document for each of your CARs, you will be on the right track. So again, I don't want to go over this line by line because most of you are very familiar with it. I just want to point out some of the highlights that are very important. So just want you to first of all, when you write your car, just know that if you have a violation, an A violation or an unabated violation, you do not want to exit with the facility as it states here, because that car will need to be reviewed by the Adult Care Licensure Section Quick Review Team prior to exiting with the facility. So if you have an A or an unabated, do not exit. You want to ensure that you get it written and you submit it to Quick. If you, again, if you have an A or an unabated, it just kind of lets you know that you need to complete the penalty forms that go along with that in order to submit those to Quick with the car. The other caveat I would like to point out here is if you have a car with a violation and you are working on it as part of a complaint investigation, you need to ensure that you are allowing time to complete your investigation within the 60-day mandated time frame, which is mandated by the law. So if you are working on a complaint investigation, you have 60 days to complete it and exit with the facility. So you need to ensure that you have time to, and you've allowed to time in that 60 days to write that car, complete those penalty forms, submit it to the Adult Care Licensure Section for Quick review, potentially have a day or two in there for resubmission, and then getting the exit by the 60th day. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean that you submit the car to Quick and you fax it to Quick on day 59 and say, I have to exit with this facility by tomorrow, because I can assure you that's probably not going to happen and you're not going to be in compliance with the rule. Because once the Adult Care Licensure Section receives the car for review, we will review that within 72 hours. However, we are also reviewing SOD's, Statement of Deficiencies, and we review them in the order of receipt. So if you are, and it could be that we could get it back to you that day, but if you're submitting it on day 60, day 59, and saying, exclamation point, I have to exit tomorrow. Well, we will try to get it back to you, but it is your responsibility, as it is ours, to ensure that we are in compliance with the law, which is 60 days. So please take that into account as you are out there in the field and working to complete your investigations and submit your information to the Adult Care Licensure Section. Another note that we kind of touched on is the supervisor of the adult home specialist should be reviewing your cars and your penalty forms. Look at your agency policies. Standard deficiencies and type B violations are not reviewed by the Adult Care Licensure Section Quick team. So if you feel you need a second set of eyes on that, you really need to ensure that you're allowing that 60 days, you're counting for time that your supervisor will be reviewing the car as well. So if you're citing a standard or a B and you're on day 58 and you know that your supervisor has to read that before it goes out to the provider, please take that into account. After you have submitted your information to Quick, and let me point out real quick here, we want to ensure that all Quick submissions are done via fax. We cannot accept Quick submissions by email. And the reason for that is because we have not exited with the facility and we don't want anything going out via email that has not been provided to the facility. The other thing is there may be information inadvertently or unknown in the card that will identify the resident. So we do not want to see any Quick submissions via email. It is done via fax. And that fax number is documented on the sheet. you will use the designated fax cover sheet. If the fax cover sheet is not included when you submit the car, you will receive an email back from us, and we will not be able to assign the car until we have the fax cover sheet, because we need the information on the cover sheet in order to review that car. Please ensure that you are pulling the correct cover sheet from the SharePoint site. Again, I would advise that you pull it at the time that you need it versus, keeping a copy saved in a folder, something like that. If and or when you submit a car and penalty forms to the adult care licensure section for a quick review, you do not receive an email confirmation back from our team within 2 business days of submission, please go ahead and reach out to us by email and let us know, hey, I submitted this car, hadn't seen the confirmed receipt. That way it can flag us to look for that car to see if we did in fact receive it. Sometimes our fax machine is running rampant. It's going on and on and on. So we get a lot of faxes in. So we want to make sure that we are tracking your cars and we are responding timely when we get those. So that is an option that you have. Again, if you send us a car today, you don't need to send us an email and say, hey, I just sent you a car. All you need to do is you need to fax that car in with the fax cover sheet and the penalty forms. If you do not receive the confirmation within 2 business days, then on that 3rd business day, you're emailing the adult care licensure section team and you're letting them know I submitted a car for Tamara's Family Care Home on 8/6. I haven't received any confirmation what's going on. And they will immediately stop what they're doing and they will look to determine what's, if we have it, they will try to determine, if it was missed, that type thing. And if we determine that we do not have it, you will receive a response to ask you to please send it back via fax, that type thing. So the quick review team is going to review your car and your penalty forms, and they will document on that sheet, as we discussed, the actual outcome of the quick review, whether or not the report needs to be resubmitted, and or if your penalty form needs to be resubmitted. And if it is the final quick review, they will document on the final section there. They're going to document the date that you will need to deliver that car and submit that penalty proposal. Trying to find the actual fax cover sheet. Don't see it, so I may go back. If I have time, I'll go back and I'll pull the fax cover sheet from the SharePoint for you. We will review your car within 3 business days. And if it does require resubmission, you want to ensure that you are resubmitting it to us within 3 business days. And you want to ensure that you've made all of the corrections. One key point that you want to remember here is if you have questions about any of the comments or concerns about any of the suggestions or any of the questions, you want to reach out to one of the quick reviewers, and we try to get the regional team supervisor involved for your team in your area. Sometimes that doesn't happen, but if you are reaching out to your regional team supervisor with questions about a quick review and they didn't read that report, then they're not going to be able to best answer your question. So please look at the actual quick review and contact one of the reviewers for questions. I will show you where that will be on here. So the quick reviewers' names will be right here on this line, and they will send you an email that says quick results have been faxed back to your office, and their contact information, the telephone number, will be included in their email signature. So you will have maybe their initials, you may have their full name here. Sometimes they'll write contact, contact Bridget, contact Tamara at this number. But if you don't have their telephone number, then of course, when you get the email from the adult care licensure section that the results have been faxed back to you, you will see their actual telephone number in the signature. I'll show you where that's located. Good afternoon. The results for submitted CAR have been faxed back. Please contact Heather or Susie with questions. There's Susie's phone number right there. So you know that Susie read that CAR. If you need to reach someone regarding any questions or concerns, your first contact would be Susie. You have her telephone number there. And then if she needed to get the other reviewer involved, of course she would. That way you have all the information kind of there at your hand, readily retrievable of how to reach out to us. When we do send those quick results back, we do email both the adult home specialist and the supervisor, and we get the information for that from the information that you actually submit. So it's very important that we have this fax cover sheet, and if we don't receive it, we are not going to assign that review until we do. And we have to have this completed because, number one, we have to use these email addresses to send out the Zix email invitations, but we also need these email addresses so we can readily contact you when the results are are available, or if we need to set up a meeting with you to discuss the findings and or comments in that CAR. Right. Now, when it's time to exit with the facility, there's going to be two options. We went over those options earlier. And the documents that you are delivering to the facility are different based on the findings in the CAR. And so option one is if you have a CAR with a type A or an unabated violation, you will actually, make all your revisions to the CAR in the penalty forms, and you will need to be certain that you have completed the IDR and penalty recommendation notification letter, which we looked at earlier. You would complete it, remove anything that is not applicable, and you would make sure that you are delivering that letter with the CAR at the time of exit, which is within 10 business days of the final ACLS quick review. So that's option one. That's if you have your A violations or unabated violations. And of course, we talked about the information included in that notification, why it's so important that we get it to the licensee with the CAR. And again, if you will use this penalty and CAR checklist, it's going to give you all of that information here. It tells you, about IDR. It tells you about penalties. It gives you all the information that you're going to need. It actually has the actual email addresses on here. It just basically walks you through when you need this letter and when you don't. So, always use this if you can. It's almost like one of those things when, you're taking your rule book with you. Yeah, I know the rule for supervision, but I'm taking this rule book with me and I'm going to have it with me whenever I'm out in a facility conducting a survey or complaint investigation, because I may have to refer to it at one time or another. So I'm just going to have it with me. And, so you want to have this checklist with you and, kind of check off or take notes here if you're running into issues. Let's go back to option two. This is the option when you have a CAR without an A violation and without an unabated violation. So if your CAR has a type B and or standard deficiencies, or let's say it has one type B and 3 standards. You will need to, of course, make your revisions based on your supervisor review, because that report will not have been reviewed by the adult care licensure section. It does not meet criteria for review by the adult care licensure section. And because it does not contain a type A or an unabated violation, there is no opportunity of the licensee to request an IDR, and there would be no need to include a notification of a penalty recommendation, because there would not be a penalty for an initial type B violation or a standard deficiency. So for option 2, you will not need to deliver the template letter that we went over earlier. That is only if you have A violations or unabated violations. The time frame is the same. It would be within 10 business days of your last exit date to the facility. So the delivery date is going to be 10 business days irregardless. It's 10 business days from the final ACLS quick results, or 10 business days from your final on-site visit with the facility if you're using option 2 for cars without A's or unabated violations. All right, let's draw our attention to a couple really important steps here. We want to make sure that we, in the adult care licensure section, have record of all noncompliance that is cited at a facility by our DSS partners. You know, you are one of our backbones. You help us to investigate complaints. You're out there doing the monitoring. You're the front line for us many times, and what you find is very important. So we want to ensure that we get that documentation into the facility file, and we are able to easily retrieve and reference it if and or when there is a time when our senior section management is looking at a compliance history for that facility. So what needs to happen for each and every car that you cite, whether it be standards, whether it be an A, whether it be a combination, maybe it's a 10-page car with 1 rule, maybe it's a 50-page car with 4 rules cited. What we need from you is we need you to ensure that within 3 business days of delivery of that car, you submit the car to the adult care licensure section using the designated regional email address. And that regional email address is documented on this form. I used team, I didn't put my team, yeah, well, I did here actually. We've got team 1 here, but this is the exact same, except if you're on team 7, you would use team 7. And this is where you would submit the car to. And again, this car has now been delivered to the facility. It's been reviewed by your supervisor, and it has been reviewed by ACLS if applicable. And it has been delivered to the licensee and the facility, so it is okay to send that car via email. You want to make sure that you have named the car correctly. You are naming it in accordance with the acronym list. I don't have that acronym list available to me at this time. We will post it, and we will actually get a copy of it posted in the penalty section as well. We just did a brand new acronym list, so we'll make sure we get that posted there. But basically, when you are labeling a car, you are using the facility name, then you're using a space, you are using a 8-digit date, which is the 4 digits of the year, a dash, 2 digits of the month, a dash, 2 digits for the date of the month, and then your acronym is CAR. You want to ensure that the date you are using is the date of exit. And it's very important that you are labeling the car with the date of exit, because especially if there is a penalty, you want to ensure that those match. That's how we track it. So you're using your exit date here. You're not using the date that you initiated the complaint investigation. You're not using the date that you completed the complaint investigation. You're using the exit date as your date for the car. You just open up your email, key in the regional email address, attach your car, hit send, boom, it comes to us, and it is filed by support staff in the facility's electronic file. And so therefore we have a record of that noncompliance. So we want to get credit for all the hard work that you do. And we value, your oversight. And so please ensure that that step is not missed. I will tell you, if you are logging a car on your monitoring or investigation log, you want to make sure that you have sent it in to the regional email address. And what I see often, and what I saw when I was a supervisor, is I would pull up the regional logs and I would see a car on there, but I would look back and I'll say, we never got this car. So then we have to go back and we have to say, hey, I didn't get a car. I see it on line 42 of your investigation log for Tamara's Family Care Home. I don't have the car. Can you please submit it? So then you have to stop. You have to go back, look through all through your files, try to find it. So go ahead and make sure, when you're submitting those logs, run down through there. If you have any cars you've not submitted, just go ahead and submit them then. That's the time when you can do a check to make sure you've got it all submitted. Okay. That's just a tidbit that may help. Then the other piece to this notification to the adult care licensure section is the star rating. And the reason this is important is because based on that general statute that we discussed in our penalty training, we have to ensure that we are issuing star ratings in accordance with the general statute. And basically it says that we have to issue a star rating within 45 days in certain specific instances. And so when you have a car that has an A violation or an unabated violation, you must notify star rating. And the reason for that is because violations impact the facility's star rating score. So if you are citing an A or an unabated violation, that facility will receive a star rating and it will deduct points for the violations that were cited in that car. So if we don't have the notification to star rating, then their star rating certificate is not going to be adjusted to reflect that actual violation, and then we are not in compliance with the law. So let's look at the star rating notification form. This is an adult care licensure section form. It's form 4695. The top section here is just where you're keying in the information about the facility and your county and your name. It's actually asking you, excuse me, for your email address as far as in case they need to contact you. So go ahead and key that in. And this can be handwritten. It doesn't have to be typed, but we do need it. Has your exit dates there. And for delivery of the car, when you are citing that car, you are documenting the non-compliance here in the top section, and you are documenting the level of the non-compliance. Okay, and you are also attaching a copy of that car. And the reason you're doing that is so our star rating team can go in and they can deduct those points and issue a star rating reflective of the violation. So the way that you do that is you complete the form. You just open up your email. You compose the email to the email address here, which is the Adult Care Star Rating Team. You'll just type that email address in. you'll attach a copy of the CAR, and you will attach a copy of 4695 with the rule areas completed here and the level. Then you will hit send. The adult care licensure section star rating team will then adjust and issue the star rating to the facility. That is not your responsibility, but then everyone is in compliance with the law. But what we need to remember is after we go back and we complete our follow-up, we also need to let star rating know if the violation was corrected or if it was unabated. So scenario, you go out, you cite an A1 violation at 1004A at Tamara's Family Care Home. You submit the CAR to Quick, it's reviewed, it stands, they say deliver this to the facility. You exit with the facility on May the 1st. Within 3 business days, you will submit the CAR to your regional email group. But because it has an A violation in it, you will also need to submit the CAR to the star rating email group. So you will submit via a second email. You will compose it to star rating. You will attach a copy of the CAR to that. You will fill out the top portion here. You will say the facility name is Tamara's Family Care Home. The exit date was May 1. The rule area was 1004A and it was cited as an A1. You will send it in. All right, then let's say you're going to go back to that facility, and let's say you're going back on July the 1st, and you pull your sample and you look at it and you finish all of your record reviews and you say, okay, well, Tamara's Family Care Home, they're in compliance now. This is corrected. So what are you going to do now? You're going to let the actual ACLS regional email group know that it's corrected. But the key piece here is we have to let star rating know, because they will get some points back, partial credit for correcting the violation. How do we do that? We're going to come over here. We're going to use the exact same form that we used before. We're going to fill in the top information, but because we are correcting it, we're going to come to the bottom section and we're going to say rule areas 1004A, and it was corrected. And that's what we're going to do. And if you don't have a CAR to attach here, you can attach your monitoring report where you say rule 1004A follow-up, observations, interviews, and record reviews revealed noncompliance was not identified and the violation has been corrected as of 7/1/2023. You have the facility sign it. You can attach it to this. You send it in. Boom. Then they go back. They know that they can update the star rating. They give them their partial credit back. They issue the star rating to show it was corrected. And then we are in compliance with that rule. That form is on the share drive. It is in our penalty section. If you have questions on how to complete that form, please reach out to the Adult Care Licensure Section Regional Team Supervisor. Okay. We have finished our actual training today. I know that we went just a tad bit over, but I wanted to discuss those specific submissions to the adult care licensure sections, because that is some of the things that we see sometimes that we forget to do. Again, you want to use this document here as your roadmap when you are completing a CAR at any level. So I'm going to turn our training back over to Nikki and let her close us out.
Okay, thank you, Tamara. And thank you all for joining our training on today. Again, should you have any questions, please submit those to the training email. That email has been pinned at the top of the chat. And thank you again. We hope that you all have a great afternoon and a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you.